match happen
Mhm.
on Acolyte to start things off, by the way, too. So I think this is a map that has the potential for some epic games. You've had some really awesome games on it already. And I mean, I hope tradition continues, man.
Okay, but here we go. We're going to be starting down here in the bottom left-hand corner of the map. Top of the red Zerg player from Psystorm Gaming. Give it up for JonSnow. Mr. Consistency.
Yeah. I mean, this guy, you can say the same thing, right? In the top right-hand corner, our green Terran player. He is from Montreal. It is Root Gaming Semper.
Game paused.
All right, asking for a pause. Of course, we got to start off every single series today with a pause because, you know, those players, they just reset up all their stuff back at home after their trip at Montreal. So it kind of makes sense that not everything will be 100% as they wanted. But...
yeah, when you said Mr. Consistent, I didn't know he was talking about the games himself too. The beginning of these series here, but
yeah, I do actually want to note that Semper and JonSnow had some pretty interesting runs at Montreal. We ended up seeing Semper. Now, he did not make it out of Group Stage 3, but he did manage to take one of the only 2 maps that were taken off of Neeb.
Yeah.
It was him and Scarlet were the only people to take a single map off of Neeb on his road to the championship of Montreal. And he also managed to 2-0 mana, and he ended up losing in the kind of the decider ace match. 2 mana, but he had a really, really sick run there.
Yeah, no, he had an epic series against Game Time too. That that was fun. So, but that's that boy Semper.
Yeah. JonSnow had a really, really sick match also on the main stage in this matchup versus Euthermal, arguably one of the best Terran players in the foreign scene. I think only really contention now is between Kelazor, Euthermal, and I would say Major.
Okay, yeah.
Inarguable. You know what? Masa sometimes I think gets added in there, but for the most part, I'd say there's 3 or 4 players, unarguably some of the best Terran players in the north in the entire scene, the foreign scene. But JonSnow able to take a 2-1 versus Euthermal on the main stage as well.
Yep. He was very excited about that. I think the Psystorm chat on Skype was going crazy about it too. So
I can imagine.
Yeah. JonSnow really living up to his name there, but here he's gonna have to prove it again on the Kings of the North, as DreamHack is over. You see, it's irrelevant now. Kings of the North is the new thing. That's all that matters right now. Not even BlizzCon matters because it's too far into the future, man.
Yeah. You know, it is really cool though, because JonSnow, he is Mr. Consistency. He is a player that oftentimes you say, he doesn't usually take games off of players that are far, far better than him. I mean, if you ended up having JonSnow versus Innovation, to be entirely frank, Innovation would probably not really lose too many games. But the other thing is, JonSnow doesn't tend to lose many games versus people that are even just like a little bit worse than him. He's a very, very strong player. He doesn't really have many off days or bad days. He sometimes, I think you would argue with that a little bit. He feels like he has off days, but comparative to most other players in StarCraft, he's an incredibly consistent player.
Yeah, and I think his style of play allows him to be like that too, where he doesn't really get caught off guard by not having anything out or just over droning or something like that. His play style tends to let him scout pretty well, and he tends to have a decent amount of aggression where he can dictate the play of the game, the pace of the game, if you let him.
Drone make its way to the in-base natural. Oh, the Reaper's not going to catch it. That would have been a really, really nice kind of annoying pestering, since all of JonSnow's lanes actually already moved their way out across the map, try and get some damage done. But it's kind of funny because Semper, I feel like he is a macro player at heart. He is such an unbelievable macro player, loves playing toward that late game. But he is the player that I would actually say is almost like, some ways the opposite of JonSnow. He is a player that I wouldn't call him inconsistent, but he gets amazing results versus very good players. And then sometimes will end up losing versus players that you think, I really thought Semper was going to have that.
Okay. I got you. Well, here we go. The beginning stages of the game, it is going to be a very fast lair coming out of JonSnow. And mind you, this is before Evo Chamber. This is before like a Baneling Nest. It is before basically anything aside from speed. And he's already getting 3 gases right now. So usually when you see something like this, it's like the setup for 2-base Muta, but he's already taking the 3rd base, and you don't really see 2-base Muta like ever anymore. So
not unless you're playing versus Jim Rising or something, in which case it gets pretty close to 2-base Muta, even though it's not quite.
Yeah. he loved his mutas, man. I'm glad that he was bringing mutas back.
Yeah, and I guess it technically works, so you know what? Can't knock it.
Nope. All right, well, let's see what he does with it. Oh my god,
that was a dangerous Widow Mine, because all the Marines were directly underneath that Overlord as well. It's kind of maybe better it didn't go off.
Yeah, imagine he shuts down his own drop before it even leaves. It's like, damn. But it is going to be a Spire here, Ravi, and that is a very early Spire. It usually is there to shut down the medevac so that you can just drone up a lot more freely. I don't think he wants to get that much harassment done with it, or if he plans to, but hey, man, if he can get it done, then that would be great. I think it's even better just to shut down the medevacs and just take a 4th base and get, ahead that way.
All right, Widowmine is eventually going to go off on those 2 lings, so not a whole lot of damage done by that Widowmine, and honestly, not a whole lot of other losses, but we got a drop. Oh my god, actually a run by Hellions. 11 workers getting roasted, 14 of them, 15 go down.
And then Liberator inside of the main, not caring about its own life, taking an additional 5?
And the drop comes back into the 3rd, taking out a few. Oh my god. Semper just goes and ramps up the aggression to 10 in a matter of seconds. And suddenly JonSnow in a lot of trouble at only 36 workers.
That's insane. Like, that is unheard of. And luckily for JonSnow, the Hellions did not see the Spire. But does Semper think about that? Like, does he even think that's even a possibility? I'm wondering, like, probably not. So maybe if he's not careful, he might lose a lot of SIVs himself. But losing that many drones as a Zerg player right now is just insane.
Yeah, I do wonder what Semper's probably thinking, because that was an immaculate defense from JonSnow with the first bit of aggression. I mean, really, really solid defense. Barely lost any kind of units, and didn't even set off the Widowmine until the very end, where he set off, like, I think it was 1 or 2 things. But now Semper, he may be wondering, okay, well, why didn't you have more units with all the Hellions and everything running by? Why did you take so much damage? And maybe he'll recognize this because of the mutas. Well, he definitely sees it now.
Oh my gosh, I thought he wasn't gonna kill it. But now it's going to be a big trigger for Semper to put up some turrets now. And that kind of sucks for JonSnow, because his counter damage here is actually really important. And I don't think he's going to get anything done.
Yeah, kills off 1 SCV building a missile turret. Might actually be able to kill off a gas geyser and get some splash damage, actually killing off a few more workers over here. He has some lings getting ready to run over to the 3rd, but Marines are already there and prepared. A bunker is actually going up at the front just because Semper is saying, you know what, I know how much damage I did. I just need to play it a little bit safe right now.
Wow. So JonSnow's investment into that tech early on is not going to pay off. It might deter some of the drops from going out so that he can at least safely drone up, but that's not going to stop a frontal push either. Mutas are not going to do that good in a straight up fight. And I think that, yeah, Semper can feel pretty confident moving on out when he gets that stim and combat shield. But his 1-1's about to be done. JonSnow delayed his upgrades in order to get this done, and nothing was really coming of it.
Yeah, it may not seem like a big deal, by the way, right now, just because Terran players you generally think of as being very mineral heavy in the kind of early and mid game, but sniping up 2 different refineries, I imagine that's got to be messing with Semper's economy a little bit, as he only finally gets up on one of those gas geysers back over in his in-base natural. But I do wonder, is that going to cut into his medevac production? Is that going to cut into his upgrades? Where does that gas kind of end up going? Because you start to see now that he is a bit gas starved.
Yeah, he's even trying to make Thors at the same time, getting drilling claws. So yeah, he's not just making Marines, right? He's getting all of these upgrades.
Oh god!
Oh my god! Not like this.
Mr. Consistency really running into some problems today. As I don't know, maybe it's the day after travel, and even JonSnow seemed to have maybe not the greatest days. As you know, I think that Semper is playing really fantastic, and the early aggression, I think he did a great job timing that all out. some really great pressure, but we definitely are spotting out a couple of mistakes from JonSnow today.
Yeah. I mean, that in its own right there.
Yeah, I mean, there's no situation where you say, I think that running these mutas over my opponent's Marines are a good idea, but I think
maybe we can make friends, right? Like,
yeah. Oftentimes I like to think of StarCraft is like a game like DDR, right? In DDR, you miss one step, you miss two steps.
Yeah.
And it actually starts to just throw you off. It's not even necessarily that, oh, just I made one mistake and immediately it's like, okay, I'm back on point and I'm back on form. You make one mistake and it just starts to trigger more mistakes. And I feel like it's kind of what we've seen a little bit.
No, it's so funny because that's exactly how I feel. Like the series of unfortunate events in a game of StarCraft 2 is so true. Now, this is going to be the hardest defense here. I mean, JonSnow, the bulk of his army is the mutas, right?
Oh, God. And those mutas take a big Widowmine hit. A lot of the Banelings have already fallen. And Semper isn't even being over-eager here. He's going to wait around until the creep actually starts getting taken out. Maybe he's waiting for some scans, or maybe he's just waiting for his +2 attack upgrade to finish, because that's going to give him a huge advantage.
Oh, he's about to be maxed out. And he's like doubling the supply. The army supply that is here of JonSnow.
All right, scans.
I don't know. This is gonna be so hard. He's just not gonna have enough, but he's gonna rely on good bailing hits here.
Yeah, I mean, gets okay bailing hits. If this was an even game, those would actually be great bailing hits. But in this situation, it's not enough for what JonSnow needed. The hatchery's getting low. The Thors are pushing back any of the mutas that get close, and the hatchery goes down.
Yep, and it's going to go down. Semper executes that well. Was very patient about it. And now, I mean, the mutas are even trying to kill some of these reinforcements here. I think that's the best thing that JonSnow could do, because he has a pretty nice drone count. It's just the fact that, oh my God, he just doesn't have enough, like, period. And Semper's putting the pressure on. He's not letting up.
Yeah. Like you said, though, I like the idea, the strategy from JonSnow. He's also already, while he was losing that other hatchery, his 4th base, he immediately started retaking a different 4th base. So he is going to be able to at least somewhat catch up. He didn't lose many drones during all of that as well, so he can immediately saturate that. Not all hope is lost, but it is certainly looking grim.
It's very grim. Semper took a 4th behind that too, right? So he's not just sticking on the 3 bases and hoping that, yeah, I'm going to kill him with this 3-base parade push. No, he sets up a planetary fortress here, and he's already making a 5th. And he's going to come up the middle here. JonSnow is going to have like the engagement of his life, because he is going to be teching up to Hive. And if he can get up to Ultra somehow and start to get a 5th base, I mean, maybe. But it's like being very optimistic here, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, to be real.
Well, all right, Widowmine's setting up, and JonSnow has a little bit of creep to work with, but a lot of those active creep tumors already getting knocked out. Banelings get some mediocre connections. The Widowmine's actually getting not so great connections and killing off a lot of his own bio, but still trading relatively effectively versus these Banelings. And as long as Semper's trading even, he's ahead.
Yeah, exactly. And here we go. Oh my God, that Widowmine was so good. And this is a really good engagement out of JonSnow. Holy crap, he is going to be able to clean up the Thors even? Oh.
Wow. The Baneling flank catching so much of Semper's army off guard, and suddenly the army supplies are actually even. The Thor is being microed back. A second Thor is going to get picked up, and just a handful of mutas are going to be able to push this back as well, keeping those medevacs from continuing to micro around. But JonSnow manages to hold on. He's still sitting down supply, but Ultra Cavern just finished up. Chitin is plating on the way. Yep. JonSnow has glimmers of hope.
It's mainly Widowmines and Marines coming out here for Semper. So if the Ultras do come out and they do get the chitinous plating, yeah, I like the fact that JonSnow's adding an Infestor too. So he's going to be able to lock down the army. And I don't believe he has Burrow, but honestly, that is a battle that you never expect the Zerg to win. Like, ever.
That it was really, really well handled by JonSnow. It was the flank. I mean, we saw at Montreal how impactful the flank can be in some of those series. As I think, what was it, Nurchio's series or something? Just really, really making it. No, maybe it was Scarlet. I can't even remember right now, but
yeah,
it really does play a huge impact in just those positional plays. And once again, Semper trying to push up that exact same ramp is now not taking even trades again, but This is not the situation it was before.
No, it is not. I mean, that army is not even that scary at all. So Semper is dealing with ultras now, and I don't think that he is equipped for it. Oh, Widowmine doing some friendly fire there, but there should be... Oh, I thought there was a drop on the other side. It was actually a Widowmine.
Oh, Mutants almost get the weakened medevac to kill off that Thor, but gonna get forced back over here. But still, JonSnow, I think another big thing about this is that there's been pressure at the front, but Semper hasn't really had too many opportunities during all of this to actually go for drops, or rather, it seems like he has kind of neglected is not the right word. He's made a decision that he just wants to push at the front because he felt like he had enough, but now things are starting to look at a little bit dicier. JonSnow has that army that's continuing to build up. He's reestablishing more of these bases, and Semper's got a great economy. He's still leading up in supply, but he needs to get something done.
Yeah, I mean, those engagements have to just be a little bit better there. And then, like you were saying, if he were to peel JonSnow apart, back, before he just committed to the attack in that little trench there, JonSnow really didn't have the units to split off. You know what I mean? Like, he actually wouldn't have been able to comfortably split his army away. You know what I mean? Like, I feel that might have... Oh, my gosh. Yeah, I think it might have been a little bit of a better idea, but, who am I to say that? Sometimes you feel like, I have an overwhelming army. There's really nothing else you could do about it, so...
That's very true. Well, Semper is potentially set up if he finds the extra APM to move in from 3 different angles right now while he engages in the middle. There was the double medevac drop in the bottom right, but it's finally going to be moving in. JonSnow already has some Ultra and a couple of Banelings prepared. Nice focus fire on the Banelings. Oh, but he eats another one in the force in the top left, just above JonSnow's 4th base. Does not actually end up moving in.
Wow. Well, I don't know. Is he being like a little bit too passive, or is it just like one of those feelings where just like forgot about the army and is so focused on the fact that his engagements aren't going the way that they went in his head?
Yeah, I mean, he still has an income advantage technically. He got up his 5th base a good bit earlier on than JonSnow, who still hasn't even actually finished his 5th base, but JonSnow is just taking efficient trades. He's holding off the aggression, and he may still be down a bit in army supply, but his upgrades are starting to finish up as well, and he's been winning engagements with inferior upgrades. If he can defend this 5th, he's actually going to be in a good position, not just like an okay position.
It would be, but that is a lot of firepower. 3-3's done here for the bio, and the Liberators have entered the building.
Oh, man. Over by the 5th of Semper. Some Banelings also running in. He's going to get some of his own counter damage done, and Ultra is going to end up falling in exchange, trying to take out that Planetary Fortress, but again, JonSnow lost his own 5th. He was hoping to maybe kill off Semper's, but Semper's already repairing up his 5th.
Yeah.
Worker damage is okay, but it's not enough.
No, it is not. I mean, he got 16 workers, but at this point, it's not even like that's a huge deal. He can still be dropping those mules here. Here comes a big Marauder force, but he is on creep. Kiting it into the Liberation Zone. Really good move here by Semper, and JonSnow's starting to run low a bit on his money. Call him Money Snow, but he's, a little broken.
Yeah, this is becoming a bit problematic. 3-3 is finished up. He needs a good engagement. He's got the Corruptors out to help try and engage against these Liberators, but this positioning from Semper is going to be very annoying to break. Even though he doesn't feel like he actually has that many units over there, he's got more Widowmines at home. He's got a force moving up along the top left-hand side. He's got a couple of units back at home ready to defend that 4th, and this is just already so much that JonSnow feels like he has a hard time breaking this angle.
Yeah, this is really tough. Like, Semper's just going to keep kiting it back that way, and now he has another army on the left-hand side. JonSnow,
no medevacs,
but can he deal with it?
Yeah, actually handles this really, really well. Uses a couple of Banelings and is able to clean things up. His Bioforce for Semper, he's got a lot of medevacs so he can heal up these stem bio, but they are starting to get a bit low. They're like 1 or 2 swipes away from just dying.
Yeah, Semper is making nothing but Marines and Marauders right now, and Liberators, he's adding to the Liberator count, and now the Corruptors are moving around the other side, and there's not a lot of anti-air aside from these Marines, but they were a little bit to the front.
JonSnow establishes that new base, though, as his newly established 5th, and Semper hasn't exactly looked to take a 6th base just yet, even though he has multiple orbital commands ready and waiting to start mining. He could even lift off his main orbital command and do something with it, but now JonSnow's moving across the map. He sees that Semper is trying to move around. He wants to catch his army. He's going to be setting up for a fantastic flank tempo.
Oh my god, could this be the one? He's going in on those Liberators with the Corruptors, and he does clean them up here.
Oh, just barely.
The army value is about even.
Yeah, and you know, he is actually, this army is stimmed to death right now. The Corruptor's also taking out the Medivacs, and JonSnow is starting to crawl closer and closer in supply. He's going to end up backing out over there as he's dealing with some drops on the bottom left, but he could very well try and push in, maybe up to the top left-hand base. I think there's the Sim City over by that more forward 4th base.
Yeah, it's almost
a little bit too good.
Yeah, I see. He might be able to go in there, but he doesn't have a remax capability, so his army is incredibly important to him. He's getting his economy back in check, and if it's too many Liberators that get invested into here, as well as Marauders, then the Corruptors are really going to be the most important thing that JonSnow is going to have in his arsenal. Like, there's just really not a lot that can shoot up. Like, look at this.
Wow, I mean, the Liberators get demolished. The Ultras are going to remain alive, and even though Semper's doing a great job kiting back, he is now almost even on supply. He is really just relying on the raw macro potential he's had with so many orbital commands, with all those bases, but he is still yet to actually get up another mining base. He's finally got an orbital command landed. He's mining off of it with 1 mule, but tempo, JonSnow's army is just, it feels like it's kind of gone uncontested during these engagements.
I don't know like what to say right now. Fear Dragon, if my voice wasn't so shot from DreamHack, like you'd hear it a bit more, but it's like I was sitting here and at a point in this game saying like, okay, JonSnow's gonna put up a really good fight here, but then, you know, Semper's gonna just run over this army, but he's held on. Semper doesn't have a crazy bank anymore, and he's just not being as efficient with his army. I feel like the army quality of JonSnow is starting to look a little bit better. He never slacked on his upgrades here, so he ended up getting +3/+3. But as a matter of the Ghost, finally Semper going into Ghost, and what do you think about this one here? Is this going to be the end-all be-all when JonSnow can punish?
Semper, despite the fact that, you know, sometimes you'll end up seeing him eat some big baneling hits and everything, I do feel like Semper's Ghost control is actually pretty good usually. So we'll see how well he can actually get those snipes off. He needs to be very careful. Oh, nice fumble. Locks down some of these Liberators, locks down one of the Ghosts, and oh man, JonSnow with the flanks once again. This man knows how to pull a game back.
Unbelievable. JonSnow gonna clean up the army of Semper. And Semper, yeah, he has to run all the way back to that Sim City. This is an orbital though, Fear Dragon, and not even a planetary. These SCVs have nowhere to go. And has he done the impossible? Semper doesn't have a bank. His income isn't even like that great. I think JonSnow's income is better.
Yeah, JonSnow moves in and he realizes, yeah, the SimCity's pretty damn good over there. He's gonna be able to force back that orbital command. I think the thing that he needs is some way to actually get a killing blowout. He can continue to try and just deny bases, but I'd love to see him get out maybe some more infestors, maybe even just look to, I don't know, get a burrow or something on those infestors as well. Just he needs something to actually push in and finally kill off Semper.
Yeah, but at this point, I think the Broodlords might be a good idea too if he goes into a Greater Spire. I'm looking at drones dying. I don't even know where they're dying at, but
there's a Liberator over by the top left-hand base for JonSnow. Got a couple of kills, but the Corruptors came in and killed it off pretty quickly. But well, Semper establishes that top left-hand base. He's got a lot of Liberator sieges up as well over there. And, well, the more forward 4th base is basically mined out. So even if JonSnow tries to attack in from the right-hand side, it's not necessarily going to be that effective. He's got a lot of banelings right. Oh, he might actually just try and go for the one-hit KO on that planetary fortress.
Yeah, he could definitely do something here. Like, he's starting to get this income in check. He has another base that he could take here at the bottom right if he wanted to. And he can still take the gold base. So it's not like he's running out of bases to take. And it just seems like JonSnow's engagements are just leagues ahead, at least in this game, than Semper's. Semper has not been taking the best engagements, and JonSnow is just making the perfect trades here.
Yeah, Semper never even really remade any of the ghosts. He's got one full energy ghost at one of his bases, but it looks like the Banelings actually just run straight past the planetary. A couple of them go off on it and then realize, actually, you know what? There's really not a whole lot of value in killing that. The Banelings end up dying for not much more value anyways.
Yeah.
But you know what? JonSnow actually has the economy to spare, even though he is lacking a bit of gas. So it was a big investment, don't get me wrong. He can afford it, though, I think, with all these bases he's going to be taking.
All right. Well, Semper's kind of slowing it down now. You know, he's not on the map as much anymore. I think we're seeing little like Liberator harassments going down and whatnot, but he's not as confident as he once was when he was just pushing up the middle with no fear. He's at the end of his upgrades. He's just trying different things. And they're not really working for him. And the Fungos are really good here on these Liberators. The Corruptors come in, they clean up them. Good Banelings over on the other side there. That Ghost is still alive, trying to get one snipe onto that Ultra, and I think he gets taken out by a Baneling too. The Planetary, the last thing that's standing here. And the SIVs are going to desperately try to repair it. Fear Dragon. Oh my god, what are we watching? JonSnow bringing it back. In a game that was impossible to win.
And that was a very necessary base for Semper. He's got a small little army that's on a regular move command, finally moves in and starts trying to kite against the Ultra, but he's basically not mining at this point anymore, Tempo. And JonSnow, he was trying to set up a gold base. I guess it got taken out or something. Liberator is still continuing to harass over in the bottom right-hand corner of the map. The Queen resituating itself, trying to take that Liberator out, just trying to shut down Semper's aggression. But, well, as long as he doesn't get too much into an F2 army control stuff right now. Oh my god, Semper actually starting to move into that top left-hand base. This is actually one of the few mining bases for JonSnow, the bottom right and the top left. And after not taking that gold base, this is actually going to be a bit of a problem.
Yeah. But he doesn't get the kill on the hatchery. And there's no medevacs here to actually heal.
That's got to be curtains for Semper, surely. He just doesn't have an army left over. He doesn't have an income to actually make anything happen.
Yeah, 6 Marauders, 5 Marines, and 3 Liberators to his name. And if you want to count the medevac, that's there too.
I mean, he's got more mules than he has medevacs right now, trying to mine from that right-hand base. But the Lings, well, they were making their way over there. They're going to actually snag that Zelnaga Watchtower and maybe move over to that gold. But the Liberators and Marauders are starting to siege up over there. It's not a planetary, though. And JonSnow should be able to just push in there and kill it, surely, right?
Yeah, I mean, another stim here from these Marauders. That is his army. Like, that's basically it. You know, I'm not even exaggerating or underselling it at all. Like, this is Semper's army. He might have some Marines.
8 Marauders.
You know? But in a situation like this, you know, he who has the bigger army, I think, is going to be a little bit better here as that hatchery does get taken out. Semper. Yeah, making it happen.
Corruptor is actually really lagging behind over here. But oh my god, Banelings just come rolling on in. Don't quite get the Orwell command kill, which I think that JonSnow was hoping to get. Mules coming on down, just trying to start mining in the midst of Ultras attacking the army. This is going to be the killing blow. JonSnow coming back from the brink of defeat, going up 1-0 versus Semper.
That is crazy, man. Like, what?
This is a pretty big deal, by the way, for JonSnow, who was sitting at 2 points, having won versus Jim Rising 2-0, but then lost versus Neeb 2-0. So now he's going to be going up to 3 points. Of course, Semper also sitting at 2 points, tied with JonSnow. He's going to be sitting at, I guess, 2 points that he got versus BioIce and lost 0-2 to Scarlet in some pretty close games. But close or not, it's about the end result on those games. And yeah, JonSnow's crawling a little bit further ahead, actually already in a really nice spot to secure himself a spot in the winners bracket.
Dang. Yeah, I'm still in shock. It gives me, you know, a lot of joy when I see any comeback, like not even just in ZVT, but like in general, when you, as a caster, see somebody and you almost pronounce him dead and they just so like put their hand out from the ground, right? And they just crawl out of the casket like, I'm not dead yet.
Yeah. It's actually really funny too, because he had such I would say a messy start, especially for JonSnow, who, again, consistent Snow. It's the meme, like he's so consistent with his results. But that start of the game where he had a really good defense against the first drop, and then drop came in at the same time, the Hellions came running in, and then a Liberator sieged up in the main base, and suddenly 20 workers died. JonSnow was down to 35 workers versus, I think, 47 or so for a 3-base Semper that also had an army behind it. Things were looking so good for Semper.
Yeah,
But
and he was like taking bases even after that too. So
yeah, and it was really just the engagements from JonSnow, the cost efficiency in getting those flanking positions repeatedly that allowed him to pull the game back.
so cool. Yeah, it was the engagements were on point. Never slacking on the flank, and yeah, Semper, he just lost so much to each one of those defenses.
Yeah. But ladies
Jeez.
and gentlemen, while we wait for JonSnow to restart his computer, as he, I guess, maybe had a couple of issues during the midst of that game, we did have a pause at the very beginning of the game, so it's there definitely
True,
possible.
true. Yeah, he said
But,
that.
luckily, he did end up winning, so it's not like something that just ended up costing the game or anything. But I do want to give a huge thank you to, of course, our wonderful sponsors. Again, if you have a bit of time, be sure to check them out. Chairs for Gaming offers these wonderful DX Racer chairs that Tempo and I both have and both use, sit our butts on for a very, very long period of time every single day. Highly would recommend them.
Same here. And of course, Asus, Republic of Gamers, ROG, some of the best hardware that you can get. And always good on them for supporting esports, supporting Kings of the North with all of the gear as well. So if you haven't had the chance, definitely go check them out. As they have some really, really nice stuff there, especially if you're looking to upgrade.
Yeah. And our final shout out, of course, going to Match Arena. If you type the exclamation mark Match Arena in the chat, use the promo code KOTN4. You can add $1 to the prize pool. And of course, you can add money through adding funds to Match Arena. A good chunk of it is going to be going toward that prize pool. A little bit else going to be going towards some of the, for example, the stretch goals to try and get another cast route. We have a video contest there. We have all kinds of real cool goodies that you can actually buy, like shirts. We have, I think, a mouse pad. We have a coin that you can buy. Just has a really cool Kings of the North symbol. Lots of really awesome goodies. So go check out that Match Arena page as well. But here we go, ladies and gentlemen. JonSnow in the lobby. We're hopping on to Mech Depot for game number 2, Tempo. How are you feeling after that last game about this game number 2?
Excuse me. Yo, I mean, unless the whole being on the brink of death thing was what carried JonSnow to that last game, then you know, I'm definitely very, very excited for this because I believe he went for like a 2-base muta that did have a third base on the way, I guess. So 3-base muta and to losing like 16 workers. So that's not usually an ideal opener, you know, as a third player. So I don't know if he's gonna have, or if Semper's gonna have the opportunity to get that many kills again. It was a triple pronged aggression that was really, really well executed, and JonSnow was going for a build that doesn't really have any units and saves up the lava in order to get out those mutas. So we'll see if JonSnow is a bit more safe.
Yeah, and here we go, Mech Depot. Game number 2, we'll see if it's going to be a repeat of that last game with the opening, if Semper can get a massive amount of damage done and maybe close it out this time, or if JonSnow is going to be able to hold strong as we hop into the top right-hand corner of the map. Very soon it's going to be our green Terran player. Give it up for Root Gaming Semper.
And in the bottom left-hand corner, he is from Psystorm Gaming, back from the dead. It is JonSnow.
Shout out to our wonderful observer, by the way, Joe Laguidis, with those fallen intros.
What a boss. Good to see him actually this weekend. Yeah, for those that didn't know, Joe was actually at DreamHack Montreal.
Yeah, for those who don't know, Joe also the organizer for another North American LAN event, Cheesadelphia.
Yep.
So many things I could say to annoy him.
Many times, man. He's a hospitable person too.
Wonderful, wonderful guy. So many ways to annoy him with spelling out Cheesadelphia weird and spelling out his last name incorrectly.
Cheesadelphia. And then an F instead of PH.
Oh, fun fact, by the way. I don't know if you know this one. Cheesadelphia. I believe, so there was a bit of contention on whether or not Cheesadelphia was supposed to have the E in the cheese, C-H-E-E-S, the final E in cheese, Adelphia.
Yep.
And I can't remember which one it was originally, but so many people tweeted with the hashtag Cheesadelphia the incorrect way that Joe was forced to change it to the incorrect way, I think after like season 2 of Cheesadelphia.
Yeah.
I love annoying Joe with that kind of stuff. I actually used to say it the correct way, and then I learned about that story. I was like, well, I'm gonna continue doing it the incorrect way then.
Exactly. That's
Just
such
to
a
mess with him.
dragon thing to do.
Oh,
It's like yams, you know. Your boy Snoot.
okay. Well, JonSnow down over here with this drone at the natural. Had it just sitting there for a little bit. Normally, against most Terran players, I would say, oh, you know, maybe he's a bit worried about, you know, Masa's building bunkers inside of his natural, or, you know, a Re-Rax Reaper something coming out. You know, something cheeky happening. But versus Semper, Semper just doesn't cheese, man. This guy is all about the macro play. So
yeah,
it's some small little things, I guess. Small, like sending out the drone a little bit early.
yeah. I wonder why too. Unless it might have been a miss rally or just he had it there, was hoping that he timed it a bit better, but it was like, oh, I guess you know, you have to wait until it has full HP before it's mineable.
Yeah. Either way, though, not going to make a huge difference. Ooh, Semper on the rally with this Marine, going Overlord hunting to try and shut down map vision. Misses the Overlord by a hair. In fact, he should have had vision of the Overlord, but no, that Marine just not quite smart enough.
Nope. I thought he was gonna get taken out there. Maybe he was a little bit preoccupied here with this extractor, trying to deny the third base of JonSnow for as long as possible. Always a good thing to do if you can. I mean, yeah, the fact that he even has it all the way over there is always good.
Doing a great job of it too. And after you know, he moves in with those lings. That's part of the reason why that drone gets so low and kind of has to back out for a while and continue making. Oh, he lets the drone finish. He doesn't just a stray extractor on the map.
Oh man, yo, this is a sick build actually, because he can mine to his natural
long distance mine.
Yep.
You know what? There's always been a problem for Zerg players that want to go for 2-base Spire play. They realize, you know what? I can only put 3 drones on gas. So how efficient can my mining really be? But now with an extractor all the way out in the middle of the map, he can put like 25 drones on gas. Think of all that gas he'll be mining.
It's a shame that drones don't get speed increase on creep, but if only, man. Because things like this would be way too popular. Imagine that, right?
Yeah.
Like if drones had the extra creep speed, you would see this build every day, right? Like there's no doubt about it. So.
Oh man, that would be sick. By the way, thank you. I believe that we just got a host from Nathanius. So ballin' Nathanius. My friend, my colleague in the 5 a.m. Tim Hortons run.
Oh yeah.
Montreal. What a journey. What a journey.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
But okay. Ladies and gentlemen, for those just, yeah.
Wait, what?
A little bit of a harassment coming in over here with the Hellions and the Reaper.
Yeah, there was a little bit of a drop inside of the main too, and the Widowmine ended up blowing up most of the Marines there. Hellions aren't going to get as much success as they did on that last map, but they are going to be able to take out a few of these lings, which is always a good thing.
Yeah. Also just denying a bit of mining from that third for a little bit longer. JonSnow sitting on a pretty low drone count. He's making a few more workers, but he's actually still losing some to the 2 Marines in the main base. Once again, JonSnow taking a lot of damage. Yeah,
these are 2 Marines. Like, that's usually not really a big of a threat. But he was so focused on not taking damage from those Hellions that even a little thing like that, you know, if it was a Liberator, that whole minute line might have been dead.
Well, Liberator actually going after some of these drones now, and actually even getting a kill on one of the drones that were going to be spawning from the larva, so it's actually more workers killed. And got even more as they transfer over the third. Those Hellions still alive. JonSnow is falling apart, it feels like. Yeah, but remember, this is like the trigger. It's like the Berserk mode where you have to be below 25% HP before you can really trigger it. So JonSnow just has to lose about, you know, double-digit drones, and then he finally goes into God Snow mode. Yeah, it's like a trait from an MMO. You just start doing around like 75% more damage to all your attacks if you're below 25% health. Yep. Well, you're certainly getting to below 25% health as another 2 workers end up falling, and the medevac makes it out of there alive. JonSnow doesn't even have that big of an army, and look at this. We're going into full-on mech with more Hellions being made. We got a Thor being made inside the main base, and triple factory from Semper. Oh yeah, triple factory. It was scouted here by JonSnow. So that may have been why he put down these Roach Warren.
So yeah, seeing all those Hellions, this is going to definitely help you out. Now, everybody has their own way of dealing with mech. JonSnow's going to have to think of a weird way because he doesn't have a lair.
Okay,
So he
one
can't-
drop Overlord coming out.
Okay, he has Overlord speed. That should be all.
But you know, what's funny is that this isn't mech with a crazy number of siege tanks. In fact, it's not just one Thor or even, oh, okay. He had the second, or he had 2 Thors queued up for a moment, but looks like he is going to start up that siege tank production. Dropping on top of the siege tanks can be pretty effective potentially, and or even just dropping on top of the Hellions or something, using the friendly fire. But the siege tank count isn't really that high just yet. He looks like Semper is going to be just facing a big Roach Ravager attack first.
Yeah, it's completely all in here. No more drones being made. And there's going to be a drop inside of the main. That was the one that we were talking about earlier. Hellbats are going to try to fight against Roaches and Ravagers, and, you know, they're not really the best here, as they can be kited. Now, can they actually get the connections here with the Roaches? I think we're doing it for a little bit of time.
Yeah, I mean, doing some decent damage. +1 weapons is going to be finishing up pretty soon as well, but the SCVs start to go down the main base. Semper doesn't seem to realize that the Lings are killing everything right now. He's so focused on the battle, he loses every single worker in the main base, besides the 2 that just complete some factories, and even a siege tank is going to end up falling.
Wow, he's even bringing queens here. JonSnow, he's just going pretty much full all in, full ham. And he needs to kill Semper here, right? Like, he can't even let him restabilize because it is triple command center. The drone count is very low already, so it is only 41 to 38, and that's really good for the Terran player. So I think Semper, despite losing all of these SCVs, he's actually still going to be in a decent spot if he holds.
Yeah, and JonSnow is losing a lot of the Ravagers. These Queens take so long to come across the map. Okay, he picks him up into the Overlord. He can salvage that situation a little bit and maybe hold on, but man, that third base is looking awfully vulnerable to Hellion run-bys. He's going to have to just try and remake more units right now, but he's starting to drone up. He might be able to use some Overlord drops to try and keep his opponent at home.
Yeah.
I think that's really his only hope right now, right?
I mean, yeah, at this point, he's so far behind in tech that it's going to take him forever to get up to even making an army that's going to deal with the actual full-fledged mech army, so.
Well, okay. Ling's running by, killing off a siege tank, especially with... Oh, no, misses the final blow.
Dang, that's a shame there. That's very important to thin out that siege tank count as best as you can, but without even road speed, it's, you know, the poor roaches look so sad trying to chase Hellions off creep.
Yeah, well, okay, if the Hellions could make their way over the third, there's not really a whole lot of defenses over there. JonSnow's trying to get his roaches into position, but the drones immediately starting to run. A couple of them already getting roasted. They're lining up as well, taking a lot of damage, but only 2 end up falling.
All right. Well, Semper is, you can say that he stabilized, right? Like, JonSnow went into macro, so he's going to be playing from behind as far as upgrades go for the rest of the game, at least until 3-3 is completely done. But what do you make of this here, where you invest so much into trying to kill your opponent? They hold. They're going for a composition that's going to be really, really vulnerable usually when you're building it up, and then when it gets to that towards the max, it's just, you know, so much harder to deal with without the right tools.
I think that JonSnow still has a couple of tools available, like going for the roach drops in the main base, being annoying, trying to get pickups on these siege tanks, but oh god, the Hellions running into the main base now. JonSnow late on the drone pull. The Queen is getting some damage on these Hellions, but looks like he's going to end up losing almost all of his drones inside the main base, which is definitely something he cannot afford to be remaking right now. He really needs to make more units, and hey, he's getting out the Swarm House. This is one of the most effective answers to mech, and you know what? We've seen really good engagements from JonSnow throughout this series so far. In game number 1, great flanks. You can still turn this around against the mech army with some amazingly good engagements, some good flank positions, catching your opponent on siege, but yeah, it is relying on that right now, I think, for JonSnow.
It is, yeah, and what better units than free units here, as if JonSnow is able to start you know, pecking away at Semper's army, then maybe he can get something done here, but he has to cast the army on his side of the map, or rather on Semper's side of the map. Like, you can't attack with Swarm Host on your side of the map, rather defending if you're trying to get value out of them. Oh,
well, can we get a hotkey check on JonSnow? Because he's currently doing what I think I usually only ever see True do, which is going for the Overlord Queen harassment at the 12-minute mark or like 11:30 mark. Not exactly usual. Couple Swarmos moving in, but the Siege Tanks are unsieged. So, man, that actually would have been a lot better. I think he was hoping the Siege Tanks are siege up for that friendly fire splash damage, but now not going to have quite as much of a defense to defend this 4th base.
Nope. Some pretty good corrosive biles, but not enough to kill the siege tanks. And since it is a forward base, and it is so vulnerable to the siege position. And how many siege tanks are there actually, man?
Okay, well,
17.
There's a lot of them, and the Swarmos are going to try and come in for a flank. The Hellions don't quite catch them, and hey, a couple of these siege tanks are, well, 2 of the siege tanks end up falling for a large wave of Swarmos. You got a Roach drop inside the main base. I love that JonSnow is trying to pair this up with a lot of other things, and the Ravagers are starting to move in with some great corrosive biles, but is it enough? Is he really doing enough, Tempo?
Well, he's starting to chip away at the army pretty well, and he's not using all of the Locusts at once. That is the most important part. If you were using all of them at the same time, then Semper could unsiege pretty safely. So the Roach drop is doing, well, it tried to do something. I guess it got 4 workers. That's not the best, but
Hellions getting a lot more damage. 15 workers going down. 4th base having been killed off. JonSnow's trying to reestablish it on the south side, but Semper's already seen that and is going to gradually start to push forward. Look at this line of siege tanks. It's not just one giant clump of siege tanks.
Nope.
It's a massive line, and that makes it really difficult to engage into.
Yeah, but here come the Swarm Host once again, jumping on top of the tanks.
Oh.
Roaches and Ravagers are trying to come from the south side, and JonSnow does have a supply lead.
Okay.
You know, his worker count's pretty low. It's at 48. He doesn't have many bases that he's able to mine from either.
Those Swarmos, they're starting to get the damage that they need to get done. 17 of them out on the map, and they are, of course, free units, so they will trade cost efficiently anytime they engage. It's just about trying to buy enough time. Now, is the economy still too hindered for JonSnow? Is I guess the final kind of question over here. Locusts for those Swarmos not really doing as much, but here we go. A massive wave of Locusts going to be coming on these siege tanks that are very vulnerable with the Hellions out of position.
Oh, yeah, and now they're coming from the back while the Ravagers and Roaches come from the front.
Oh.
Wow, this is another flank of JonSnow that he's been so good at doing this whole series.
Just
wow.
Channeling both, you know, True with some of the weird plays. We got Nurcio with these crazy flanks and setups. JonSnow, I mean, he just goes down, and I guess his trade is not at 25% of his health. He just starts doing 75% damage. No, it's at 25% of his health. Allowed 2 players to form an Archon, True and Nurcio, and just start playing out of your mind. And start coming back in whatever series you're in.
Unbelievable, yeah. I was actually, I'm pretty surprised just that that push was not as effective as I thought. Swarmos started really, really freaking good here. Like, the patient play with them, right? Like, the way that he's able to just send out wave after wave after wave. And even though Semper had a really good split on his tanks and a spread on his tanks, it just didn't really seem to matter here. Not to say that Semper's out of it by any means. He does have a mining base. That might not be for long, though.
Yeah.
Let's go for the tanks instead, though.
Yeah, Planetary Fortress gets a little bit lower on health, but will end up surviving. Now, how do you feel usually is the best way to deal with the Swarm Host? I mean, I hear some people say, oh, mass up, just lots of Blue Flame Hellions. You got to just get that splash damage in. But a lot of people also don't feel like that is the answer, although, well, this is another use for them.
Yeah, I've seen a couple different ways, though. Like, at least a couple different attempts, even with people going Banshee, you know, like with speed and eliminating the problem at the source and trying to just kill the Swarm Host by a surprise. But by that time, losing. Okay, well, there's one thing.
Yeah, and forces out a big wave of Locusts in the middle of all this. Now, there are a couple of them still utilize, picking off 2 of these siege tanks. A couple more also going to be taking some more damage, but 24 workers have gone down. Semper, I actually am starting to get a little bit afraid for JonSnow. He's getting close to maxed out, which is on a really, really big army, but his economy is not exactly that stellar still.
No. It's just the thing that he's using. I mean, he's making even more Swarm Hosts. It's kind of getting silly right now. He's up to 25, making 7 more. And when you don't have a good economy, it's just like in Heart of the Swarm, right? Like, using those units that are, whenever you're trading with them, you're not really trading the unit themselves. They are the free units, so.
This is a little absurd. We're going up to 31 Swarm Hosts. 31 Swarm Hosts, Tempo.
I mean, usually there's a thing called too many swarm hosts, but if you're like just doing wave after wave after wave, I honestly think against a composition like what Semper is doing, which is like only tank, I think this is actually gonna work, and it's kind of funny and silly at the same time. But
yeah,
it's like
Semper has stopped tank production though. Like he's doing what I really like, which is he's going into Liberators. He's gotten up. He had up a few Vikings earlier on. It looks like he still has just 2 Vikings, but he's also getting up some more Thors. And I think that this is actually going to be a much better army composition to help deal with these Locusts.
yeah, less tanks there. This splash damage doesn't really help out when Locusts are right on top of everything, right? So 28 workers were killed during that, by the way. Like,
this is
like, welcome to my world of 43 workers.
But it's usually considered more okay for the Terran player to be on a lower working count because you can still mine with a bunch of mules that don't take up any supply. Zerg player being on a lower working count is a little bit less, I guess, acceptable. But JonSnow already did redrone. Okay, here we go. Big round of Swarmos, Locust Waves coming into both of these bases. He may actually be able to get some good damage on that planetary, but looks like some other damage being done on the other side of the map with Liberator.
Yep. It got cleaned up, though. JonSnow is trading, though. Yeah, I mean, he's actually using these Locusts to trade out the army value of Semper, who is not rich either. I mean, it's just the Swarmos. Semper, usually, you know, you want to, it's like Broodlords where you just attack where they're not, or try to do something that at least will be able to take advantage of the fact that they're on a 1-minute cooldown. And Semper is going to go for it. Yeah, Hyperflight Rotos with the Banshee. I've seen this, but I don't know how effective it is because, 1, it's pretty expensive. And 2, if there are any infestors with the army or Hydras, usually it doesn't really work out for you. But if you're going to go full Swarm Host, hell, I think Banshees might be the best one here. Okay, but is he going to die before it, Fear Dragon? I mean,
that is, I think, the big question. And the reason why Swarmos are generally not considered necessarily the greatest unit is because they are very bad defensively. Imagine if Semper actually gets up enough Banshees or drops or something to move across the map and start putting on some counter pressure. There's only just a handful of Ravagers and I guess some Vipers. And then the rest of the entire supply for JonSnow is just Swarmos that can't really engage against an army defensively because they'll just pick up, go somewhere else, and continue the damage. That is the one big fear I have. And if Semper ever gets an opportunity to do that with even like 2 Thors and a medevac, I think could start putting on some serious pressure for on JonSnow.
There's really nothing to contest the sky, right? Like Semper owns the sky right now, but now that JonSnow's getting better. Oh God.
Yeah.
This is insane.
The Vipers really are the thing that make this a lot more difficult, though. As you were saying, this gets a bit insane because now you lock down all those siege tanks. The splash damage suddenly disappears with the blinding clouds. 35 Swarmos. Okay, JonSnow, you just said, you know what? We haven't memed enough on the Swarm hosts. We're just going to continue making them. 32 wasn't actually enough supplied.
Yo, I mean, it's just, I can't even. 35 Swarmos is chilling out on Neck Depot. You know, there ain't nothing out of the ordinary here.
Well, gets the Vikings. Doesn't quite get the Banshees, but okay, that's a lot of Locusts. That's enough to one-shot up. I think that actually might one-shot a Planetary Fortress. Like,
yeah.
if all the Locusts attacked at once.
I mean, they have +3 attack too. It's
an
insane amount of DPS.
I actually think in a base trade, the Swarm host may win.
Yeah.
At this point, well, I mean, granted, Semper could lift up his buildings, but
it's like if only the Locusts could shoot when they're flying too.
Yeah, man. Or even just like suicide. What if? Oh my God! Hold on, I have a tweet I need to make. What if Swarm host Locusts were Scourge until they landed?
Oh my God! Yo, you just made at least 33% of the chat pretty triggered, or at least 66% of the chat pretty triggered.
I don't know, man. I think you know what? I was at Montreal and talked with the BlizzCon balance team. I talked with some of the people there. I think I got the hookups now, man. I'm gonna email Blizzard right now.
You're gonna
I think it needs to be done.
Oh boy.
Because the Swarmos don't seem cost efficient enough right now. Because the Terran player can lift up his buildings, and Swarmhost would just be useless. It's dead supply at that point. I don't think that's really that fair.
It's not fair, right? I mean, look, I'm a Zerg player, man, and even I, I don't know. You know, that evil side of me that's like, actually, there is absolutely nothing wrong with that, but man, well, here are those Banshees we were talking about. Do you think 3 of them can do it? The dream?
You know, I think that they can, because these Swarmhost Locusts are not Scourge while they launched into the air, but the Hydras come in. JonSnow has some anti-air, push things back, and these Swarmhosts are just going to go in, and literally, if they all just launch on this orbital, they're going to be able to kill it. But there we go. Taking out the Thors, taking out the Siege Tank. Go out to the SCVs afterwards. GG finally gets called. JonSnow takes the 2-0 victory, being down in both of those games by a significant amount of supply, and coming back in both of them.
Exactly. He did it 2 times in a row where I just, this guy.
And while, yes, the end of that game looked a little silly, you got a lot of those swarm hosts being very cost efficient. It looks like Heart of the Swarm and everything. You have to remember that those engagements that he would take that were set up with some really, really good positioning, some amazingly solid flanks. And in game number 2 was also the combination of that alongside really cool harassment with roach drops and queen harassment, Ling run-bys. JonSnow actually played really, really well in the early stages of the game to get himself to that position. So as much as we can crack jokes about swarm hosts and everything, JonSnow earned himself back that spot in that game.
He did indeed. And I mean, the fact of the matter is Semper just didn't really know what to do to deal with it, right? Like, you don't really see Semper go for mech that much, and you can definitely see somebody's inexperience with it when they kind of are just at a loss. Like, what do I do?
But, ladies and gentlemen, it's worth noting that if we take a look at the standings right now, as I think it won't be 100% up to date with the latest changes, but you guys will notice that Semper was originally at 2 points and JonSnow was at 2 points, but JonSnow now going to be at 4 points after 2-0ing Semper, nearly guaranteeing himself a spot in the winner's bracket. He's going to be sitting comfortably over there, as only the bottom 4 players are going to be going to the loser's bracket. And I mean, we already know that BioIce and Buster at 0 points it was impossible for them to really overtake things. Puck has already played out his matches, and he's only going to be sitting at 2 points. And I believe that's, let's see, it's going to be just based, I guess, on whether or not Jig can tie himself up at 2 points apiece. Semper is going to be sitting down there, though, at exactly 2 points as well, though. So JonSnow has secured himself a spot there. Semper in a bit of danger now, only sitting at 2 points.
Yeah, and that's not what you would ever really expect, right? Like, Semper, definitely one of those players where you expect to be at the top of that list. And obviously, when we come against someone like JonSnow, it could go anyway. There's no real favorite in this match here. But we saw JonSnow really just come from the bottom. Now he's here. Basically, there was a unbelievable.
Starting from the bottom, now we're here.
Yeah, like the fact that he was basically not dead, but like it felt like he was pretty much dead, and was able to bring it back both times.
Okay. But as I get my tweet out about Swarmhost Locust turning into Surge,
yes,
we are going to be hopping to a short little break while we get our next and final series set up for the night. It's going to be BioIce facing off versus Buster.
All right.
Remind you guys, of course, to check out our wonderful sponsors, Chairs for Gaming, Aces ROG, and of course, type !Matcherino in the chat. Get a link to that Matcherino page. We'll be back in a little bit. You guys are watching Kings of the North.